Today we're in Mossyrock, Washington, and I'm with Jack DeGoede, president of DeGoede Bulb Farms, and we're in their beautiful display garden, and they are truly beautiful. Where is the Bulb Farms?
We're near Mossyrock, Washington, which is in southwest Washington State, about 15 miles east of I-5 on US 12, Highway 12. It's the White Pass Highway going over the Cascade Mountains.
Yeah, it's beautiful here. The gardens are gorgeous. How much area does this cover?
This covers about 1/3 of an acre to 1/2 an acre in display.
Yeah, and these bulbs you grow?
We grow all these varieties that you see here. We grow. We try to keep everything that we sell in our retail facility, we try to have here, and then we offer these for sale to the retail public.
And you grow most of the companion plants too, don't you?
Yes, we do grow quite a few different types of perennial items. All the items that you see here, we pretty much grow in our field production.
Now, tell us a little bit about the bulbs here. You have kind of a unique way of displaying them. Most of the bulb gardens that we go to, they plant the bulbs in the ground, but you plant them differently.
Yes, we plant these bulbs that you see in this display garden are actually planted in pots. And we do that for ease of lifting them. We actually replant all these bulbs. The tulips that you see are planted each year, each fall, and then taken up again in the late spring. And we plant them in pots in groups of 4 or 5 bulbs in each pot and set them below ground level.
So that gives you a longer display period.
That's correct. That's correct.
People that come to visit the gardens will be able to see the gardens and all the spring beauty for a longer period.
That's true. That enables us to then take out the early ones as they're finished, as the later ones are coming in bloom, and then put another set of early ones in again to keep a more constant flow of color.
Now, are the gardens open to the public?
The gardens are open to the public, free of charge. They're open year-round. We try to keep some color here most of the year through. Of course, peak bloom is going to be from mid-March through about mid-November.
Is that the best time then to visit?
That's the best
for the
time.
bulbs? Now, you also plant annuals and other things during the summer here, don't you?
Yes, we do. As the bulbs are finishing, usually early May, the bulbs are finishing, we take the spring bulbs out and we put annuals where the bulbs are in display now.
Oh, wow. What a beautiful combination of colors that you've used throughout the gardens, and not only with the bulbs, but your base plantings as well of other plants and trees, I think.
Well, thank you. We try to do is give a good texture and form. You can see that the shorter material, of course, is in the front, going to the larger in the back. Shrub material in the background with a mixture of perennials in between the shrubs, and they're in more permanently. It's the bulb items that we take out and then replace with annuals.
You know, thank you very much, and I think is what's going to be really beneficial to the home gardener is all the ideas you get when you visit a beautiful place like the DeGoede Bulb Farms at Mossyrock. This is a new area, and here are a few landscape ideas that I'm trying to develop. First of all, remember always to pick off any dead or spent flowers, because then the plants flower for a longer time. And this is the yellow daisy shrub, Euryopsis in fact, and it's going to flower all summer long. Over here I put in a tree rose that we brought from the other house. And you may notice I've got roses. In fact, I think in this bed there are about 6 of them. They're kind of behind what they normally should be, but that's because I transplanted them late in the season. And this hole right here, where I'm standing, is where another fruit tree grows, another dwarf fruit tree, and I just haven't had a chance to plant it yet. But this is a miniature rose that flowers beautifully all summer long, and we potted it up last fall when we moved out of the other place, and I'll be planting that in the ground hopefully later today. And remember this plant, this is magic carpet Spiraea. Look at the chartreuse foliage on that. Isn't it outstanding? And then it has the reddish flower, of course, later in the summer, and flowers almost all summer long. And the new foliage turns kind of bronze on it. And it's going to look beautiful in this area. And then we have the emerald green yew, and that'll stay really low and give us year-round color. And over there I have a beautiful Daphne neorum, which is very, very fragrant, because the parking area is going to be in that region. And of course, when you drive in, you'll be able to get the fragrance of that Daphne neorum. We commonly call it, by the way, the rock Daphne. And look at here, our Gisela cherry. It just has been loaded with flowers this very first year. And boy, if that's any indication of the kind of fruit that we're going to get, this is just going to be a marvelous variety. Gisela, of course, is the dwarf rootstock. Now in this bed here, I have the dwarf variety of Andromeda or Pierce, and it's just now coming into bloom, a lot later than the other ones. It stays really low. It's a variety called Prelude. Very bushy and very compact, a really neat one. And then to add a little spring color, I've used Brescia here, and I've also used, although that's winter color, I've used the Laurestinus there. And then for spring, and it'll give us some summer color, and I love to use this with the roses because of the bright blue flowers. This is Lithodora, and Lithodora will become just a carpet of blue. And it's evergreen, so you have color all 12 months of the year. So you'll notice in these two beds, the raised beds, I've mixed a combination of deciduous plants, plants that lose their leaves, plus those that are evergreen. And I'll be adding perennials and annuals too, just for additional color. Geraniums are one of the most satisfactory of all of the summer flowering annuals. They flower for such a long period of time. And I'm going to show you 4 different kinds today. This, for example, is the common geranium. This does exceptionally well in full, hot, bright sun. And let me just take a second to show you, when you select geraniums, it's really important that you look for all these flower buds. You know, so often we go in, we find the particular color that we like, but we don't look at the plant. And look at what a beautiful plant that is. That has 1, 2, 3, 4 breaks, but it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 buds and 1 flower. Actually, I think there's another bud down there too. So that indicates also to you that that's a very good flowering variety. But do take a little bit of time to select the nicest plant. Now, let's go ahead and plant this. This is very good soil, by the way, and all I'm going to add to this soil is a little bit of processed manure, the bag stuff. And we'll take it out of the soil and look at nice root system, so we'll loosen those considerably, kind of massage them, I think is a good way to indicate it. And be sure that the front of the plant is forward, and then just stick it in. Isn't that easy? What a neat plant. That's going to flower all summer long, right up until frost for us. Now, here's another type. This is the common geranium also, but look at the variegated foliage. And again, I selected this. These do not flower as well, by the way, as the green leaf varieties, but I selected this because when you look inside, there are several different breaks. In fact, there are about 3 or 4 inside. And when I say a break, that means branches that are coming out of the main stalk. So it's going to make a really bushy, beautiful plant. So we'll put that right here where it'll be really colorful. Now, this is the Martha Washington geranium or the Pansy geranium. And as you can see again, this has 1, 2, 3 breaks on it. In other words, 3 branches. This does not like full, hot, bright sun, so we'll put it back in here between the other plants where it'll get some shade, particularly from the hot midday sun. And then the last of these summer flowering that are not perennials or are not the scented leaf varieties, and we'll talk about them later. This is the ivy geranium. Now this is the one that most often is used in rockeries, or it's used in hanging baskets, somewhere where it can trail down. Look again. See, I picked this because it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 buds on it, and 1 in flower already. And it gets its name ivy leaf geranium because the leaf, of course, is shaped like an ivy. So that gives you an idea of 4 of the really popular varieties of geraniums that you can count on for lots of summer color. Do you have an old stump in the yard that maybe you can decorate and really look nice? Or one like this that's right in the middle of the lawn, kind of hard to mow around? Or maybe it's doing like this one is doing, sending up suckers from the rootstock below, and you need to get rid of it. Well, here's a few ideas. We're going to use a stump remover first. Here's a brace and bit or an auger bit, or you can use an electric or any kind of a drill, and drill holes about 1 inch in size, and preferably somewhere in the neighborhood of about 12 inches deep. Now, I'm not going to do that here because I want to show you the procedure to go through, and we don't have time. But what we'll do is to drill them about 3 to 4 inches apart. And then we'll take potassium nitrate. And by the way, that's a fertilizer. It's stump remover in this particular case. But it's a fertilizer that you use sometimes to make your hydrangeas pink. And what we'll do is to pour the potassium nitrate down these holes, like so. And then what I'm going to do is to take this funnel and put it in, and then I'm going to pour hot water to dissolve the potassium nitrate. Now, you may have to come back and do this again, in a week or even a few days, because you probably have not been able to fully dissolve the potassium nitrate. But nevertheless, be sure that it's fully dissolved. And the other thing that you want to keep in mind in this too is if the suckers are still continuing to come, then you'll want to treat that stump again, either with fresh holes or with the holes that are already there. Now, that solves one problem, but what about this problem over here? You'll notice that here's part of the root coming up from this same stump, and here are the suckers coming up from there as well. Now, you may have this not necessarily from a stump that's been cut, but you may have this from a living tree, the same kind of situation. So what you want to do is to come over here and actually go down into the soil, and you can even pull it back until you find the exact spot where that's originating from that root, and then cut that off. Now, if you leave any kind of a sucker at all, or I shouldn't say a sucker, any kind of a little stub at all, is what's going to happen. Instead of getting one, you're going to get 2 or 3 in place of that one. So be sure you cut it back to the point that it originates. Get rid of those stumps that are really causing trouble in the garden, and that's the easiest way to do it. Look at the beautiful planting my wife Myrna has created in this wooden wheelbarrow. It's really outstanding. And you'll notice that she's used some of the trailing plants along the edge. But here, in order to save cost, is what she did in the bottom of the barrel, so you don't use as much soil. She used these plastic containers, and that raised up the planters, and then covered over the top of them with just a plain black plastic bag. Also, is what she's done is she has planted these in individual containers, so she can take them out and water them or care for them in any way she wants to, if she needs to. But that makes this entire planting a lot lighter. And of course, it's in a wheelbarrow, so what's great, you can wheel this anywhere you want to. Use it on the patio at night, use it in the entry during the day, or whatever you want to do. But the trailing plants, there's some interesting ones. For example, here's the bacopa. And by the end of summer, that'll be clear to the ground. Look at the foliage colors and textures here too. The variegated foliage, for example, of the double impatiens, or here with the beautiful geranium with its gorgeous variegation. And you'll also notice the textures. Here, for example, is a plant that's often used in the home. It's Dracaena. There are several different varieties at least. This is an outdoor variety during the summer season, and again provides a great texture for you. But you know what else? Look at the heliotrope, for example. Deep foliage, great fragrance from this plant. Also, having used the trailing plants along the edge, she has built up to the higher plants here in the middle of the container, and that's what's really important. This will just be an absolutely big, huge, gorgeous bouquet by the end of summer. And it's important always, if a few of the flowers kind of tend to go over a little bit, just pick them off. Keep the container really looking nice. And this is large enough, by the way, that it's going to supply some great cut flowers for arrangements in the home during the summer season too. Look here, the geraniums, full sun. Here's a fuchsia. You think of them as a shade plant, but this is a variety that'll grow in the sun. It's called Gartenmeister, and look at the beautiful foliage on it too. Really important. Some of the Marguerite daisies, here are the African daisies, and here are the Martha Washington geraniums. So there's several different types of plants that really provide lots of color in this type of a container. And what is another nice feature of it is you not only have the foliage texture and the foliage color, but you have the varying growth heights of the plants, which really provides lots of color. And we'll be showing you this at several different times throughout the summer. By the way, there are only 65 plants in this planter. Beautiful bouquet, isn't it? This week we have two plants of the week. The beautiful Loropetalum chinensis, which is commonly called the fringe flower, and this is a variety called sizzling pink. Isn't that beautiful? The raspberry colored flowers are really outstanding. And look at the rich foliage color. Really nice. Now this is a repeat bloomer, but it really hits its peak of bloom in springtime and again in summer. Very attractive plant. This Loropetalum, or fringe flower as it's commonly called, is a plant that grows about 4 to 6 feet tall, and it'll spread about 4 to 5 feet in width. So it's really a nice one. Does best in full sun, although it'll grow in partial sun and shade. And it's hardy down to about 10 degrees above zero. So it's quite a hardy plant. It loves acid fertilizer. So you'd feed it with like a rhododendron type fertilizer or an evergreen fertilizer. And the best time to feed it would be in late winter or late spring, either time. Really a beautiful plant, gorgeous foliage on it. It's one that would be pretty because of not only the foliage color, but also because of the very attractive flowers. Now here's another one. This is a rather new plant. This is a spreading type of Spiraea. Now it doesn't look like much right now because it's not in bloom yet, but this has white flowers that are about 2 inches in size. And it'll only grow about 8 inches high. So it, whereas most Spiraea get quite large, this stays quite low, and it's a moderate spreader. It does best in full sun, so give it as much sun as you possibly can. And it's hardy down to about minus 10 degrees. So it's really a very, very hardy plant. Whereas the Loropetalum is evergreen, this one is deciduous, so it loses its leaves over the winter. I'm at DeGoede Bulb Farms in Mossyrock, Washington, and I'm with the president, Jack DeGoede, and we're in the middle of the bulb field. How many acres of bulbs do you have here?
This is a 45-acre field of tulips that we're standing in here, Ed. We also grow Dutch iris and fall crocus and a few other things for a total of 100 acres.
Is that right? I should ask you, where is DeGoede Bulb Farm, so our viewers know?
DeGoede Bulb Farm, we're located here in just west of Mossyrock, Washington, southwest part of the state, about 15 miles east of I-5 on Highway 12.
The fields are absolutely beautiful. But for our viewers' sake, I want to ask you a few questions about tulips, if I may. First of all, when's the best time to plant them?
Well, the best time to plant is in the mid to late fall when the soil temperatures have dropped, preferably below 60 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay, and in planting the bulbs, should the homeowner add anything to the soil?
You may. It depends on the soil type and the condition of the ground, but you can add, of course, bone meal is a very good thing to add to them, depending on the kind of longevity you want on these bulbs. But bone meal, or what we use here is kind of a variation of a triple 15, which is a good commercial type of fertilizer.
Oh yeah. And do you put that in the soil at planting time?
Yes, we put it in at planting.
Do you do any feeding over the foliage at all?
No, we don't. Commercially, we do not. We try to do all the fertilizing in the fall. It's primarily for practical purposes on the commercial scale.
Sure, because you're trying to produce the bulb,
That's right.
Of course. Now, in the rows here, they look like there's a whole bunch of bulbs in width. Do you plant more than one row at a time, or?
Yes, we do.
Several?
We plant in a 10-inch wide band, and there's all sizes. You can see here all sizes of bulbs, all the way down from the smallest planting stock size, which is 4 centimeter, up to the largest commercial planting stock size, which is a 10 centimeter bulb.
See, and the reason why I asked you that, Jack, is because very often the home gardener thinks that they need to dig the bulbs all the time. Is that necessary? Or?
Well, it depends on the type of bulb, Ed. With tulips, it's recommended they be dug at least every second year for the best production, because they don't naturalize real well. So it would be best with tulips. With some other types, as Dutch iris or daffodils, they can be naturalized in many cases and may last for decades in one location.
But for the average home gardener, then we're talking about basically doing it every 2 years.
That's right.
Oh, wow.
In a case of a tulip.
Yeah, I leave mine in for several years now. Maybe they're not doing as well as they should do.
Well, it'll certainly work, but the problem is that what happens is because tulips don't naturalize, the flower production drops off quite considerably after the second year.
Okay. What about cutting after they bloom? Should the flowers be removed? Or?
It's best if the flowers can be topped before the petals fall, because that way the energy production goes to the bulb and not into the seed.
Okay, excellent. Thanks very much, Jack. Really appreciate it. The beautiful DeGoede Bulb Farms, and we're at Mossyrock, Washington. That's all the time we have today. Hope you can join me at the same time next time for Gardening in America.